careful when you have such a big heart like that. I love that God blessed you with that, but you have to be careful with that, because you know that it's not always returned, that type of love. But he was just genuinely a good person.
Okay, so I wanted to continue on the Nolan Wells situation, the conversation that we had going on, and not specifically on the topic of what is happening, but the scenario, the narrative that everybody is pushing. Token black person with a whole bunch of white people, and an unfortunate situation happened. We're still investigating, but the assumption is that this is all racism. The white people killed them and all that stuff. Let's talk in regards to that, because we don't have that conversation often. I think there's a plenty of a misunderstanding that's going on. I had a conversation with a couple people in regards to this not that long ago. I mean, there was kind of different perspectives, but there's something that happens when we commingle with people of other culture, as we know. And let me pull up a video really quick. This one is going to be really quick. It's going to be in relation to the Nolan Wells situation that we have. I'm gonna just stick with Wells. This is gonna be related to the Wells situation, just the conversation, not what happened to him, but the optics. Let me put it like that, the optics.
These are the exact situations we do not want to find our children in. This is exactly why things go bad in this community. Did you see the look on this woman's face? She didn't want to be thrown into the pool. You could tell she was saying no. But who was surrounding her? These are the people that will not protect our children when they are out on boats. These are the people who won't protect our mothers while they're over there for a football slumber party. This is what we're talking about. This is a perfect example of what your children should never find themselves in. You should never find yourself being the only black person surrounded by a sea of white people if you can help it. Make sure your children go outside together. Make sure they move in pairs. Make sure friends, cousins. It's time for us to start taking these things seriously, because your kids might not get to come back home.
So, interesting scenario that happened when I was in high school. My high school was majority white. I didn't have much friends, especially just moving in and just recently leaving New Jersey. So I wasn't really looking into having friends. I found these new students that came in that were both from New York. So me being in high school, I'm thinking, oh, New York, my people, my up north people, let me go ahead and chill with them. School was done. We was friends, all that good jazz. You know, we going to school together because we lived in the same neighborhood. We went to school together. We was always together, walking around in the hallways, waiting for, school to start and all that good jazz. We was tight. You know, because that's what kids do. They're black, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So they're black. Situation that happened towards the end of that school year. I wasn't anywhere. I was in a separate side of the building. Both of them happened to have class nearby. They got in a situation where they got caught up in a fight. They both got suspended. And the crazy thing is, had I been in that area where my mindset was, I would have joined and helped and assisted, even though I had no business doing any of that. And I also, too, probably would have gotten suspended. They got expelled. That's what it was. I don't know why it got that far, but from what I recall, yeah, they got expelled from the school, from the fight. And the thing that makes this interesting was because literally a few months before, we were having a little cookout, and I remember my dad telling me, oh, you got friends, like I was bringing them over for a second and stuff like that, and then we was going to go to one of the homeboys' place, and he was like, oh, you got friends, why don't you, invite, or introduce your friends to me. And my dad was very critical about the people that I always hung out with. So my response was, and it's crazy that it's not crazy that I said this, but just thinking back, it's like, dang, man, how your mindset as a teenager is so different. So my response to that was, You're always criticizing my friends anyway, so why would I bring them around for you to meet? Just for them to get in a petty fight situation and for both of them to be expelled. And then the interesting thing is, one of them, I later on found that did some shifty stuff that made me lose my trust in him anyways. So it's like, even though they were black, I still could have easily associated myself with the wrong people. Going into this situation, you see everybody making the assumption that, it's the black kid and the white, with the white kids, and then something happens. It very well could have ended in a bad situation. These things happen. I do recall a case several years back where there was a young kid, these are younger than high school. I want to say maybe early high school, middle school, whatever the case may be. They were outside and they were playing around with the black kid. And then they were chasing the black kid, thinking that it was funny, this and the third, but he didn't think it was funny. And I think somebody got shot. Either way, the case was bad. Where am I going with this? We have to understand that the way that people grow up, they're kind of going to have this mindset of, especially when they're in high school, these are my people. What do I have to worry about? And because of this mindset, we become ignorant and naive of the dangers that could possibly be afoot. Now, that doesn't say you sit here in a bubble and, no danger is going to come around you. But it makes it tough trying to navigate, especially when we see these instances happening time and time again. Because that same high school that I went to, the very few black people that I knew that were on the football team, they were in the majority white groups. They were also friends with each other, but they were hanging out with the majority of the white people, and they're still great friends into today. Now, I can say that in regards to my circle, but that's not the whole world. But likewise, that situation of, an unfortunate event happening to the one token black person, that isn't the whole world. So this is where we need to be very cognizant. And the same thing that the mother was saying was that it's great that you're a loving person, but we need to be careful. And I think that's the important part when we're dealing with the youth and the environments that they're in. You got to be careful and be aware of what it is that's happening. In the space that if something did happen to him, if some type of foul play did happen to him, the thing is that, once again, you're black. Not talking about them, just talking about in general. If you're okay, so I'm black. My father put me in the side of the neighborhood that was majority higher income. So what does that mean? You're more than likely going to be white or not black. Because the black people normally lived in a lower income area. I'm just stating what it is, guys. Sue me later, but I'm just stating what it is. So when you're in that environment, you kind of see how the culture is, and depending on how lenient you are with these, different cultures, you may allow some things to slide. Me being Haitian, everything that everybody else was doing, I was not able to do. So that was just point blank, period. Whatever my white friends was doing, I was not able to do. As time progressed, we become more lenient. We become friends with the parents. I think that was the other thing. My friends weren't really too much friends with their parents. But when your parents become friends and they become cool and they go into cookouts, and then we've been buddies for years. I believe the mother, she was friends with the judge. Or not friends, but she went to school with the judge. So it's a tight-knit community. And you know them for years. You become lenient and allow these things to happen because you know them, the parents, all this type of stuff. But there's still this difference in the cultures, as we seen in the video. A lot of white people are not going to see anything wrong with dunking somebody in the water. Now, granted, yes, wasn't that big a deal. It's hair, and we put too much emphasis on hair anyways. But to the woman's point in the video was that it was this one woman, this white girl, amongst people of a different culture where normally what they're doing is normal, because the white people don't have to worry about their hair to that degree. So they get dunked. For a black woman, that's $300 that was spent throwing out the window. Now they got to spend another couple hundred to get it fixed, whatever the case may be. There's a lot now that goes into the situation, all because of a culture difference and not understanding that I do not want my hair wet. But how can you get somebody of a different culture to really understand what it is that you're trying to convey to them? So when we have these type of situations where you have one black person that's in an environment where it's majority white, how else would they think different aside from this is my community? Yes, I may be black skinned, but they accept me. This is my community. So it's easy to trust them if that's what you grew up with, if that's what you've known, if that's what your parents allow you to be around. So how do you know what you want your parents? How do you know what you want your kids to be around? Because on one hand, you got people that say, don't hang around too many white people. Make sure there's somebody else. Make sure you stick together and stuff like that. The sticking together part, yes, that's absolutely true. But to say for those that want to segregate the blacks and the whites again, based off of the situation, would you rather have your son be in a situation with white people where something could possibly happen, or be in a situation with black people where something could also possibly happen? Because you can say that it's different with black people, but black people can get into the same type of mess. May not be on a boat, could be at a party, could be at a gas station, could be at some drive pickup location, could be at a game, just somewhere that they weren't supposed to be, and it could have just been a bad thing that happened at that moment. Because that also happens a lot, but it's not going to get headlines because there's no narrative. That's the problem with the news, is that there's a narrative. Now, will this help the parents get their investigation and help them probably get some final answers? Yeah, that's pretty true. That could definitely possibly happen. But now there's more of a divide that's coming out, all because of information that we just aren't aware of, that we just don't know. It's a slippery slope as a parent trying to raise your kids and put your kids around kids that will help bring them up, if that's just who you've become comfortable with. Not only that, he's a college student, technically an adult. I don't like that term for college students, but that's what America considers an adult. So unfortunately, he had every direction to decide who he wants to hang out, who he doesn't want to hang out, all this and a third. At this point, everything that his parents says is just advice, and he can either choose to keep it or not. Now, not saying that any of this is his fault again, but it's like, if this is how he grew up, and these are people that he grew up with, what would give him the inclination that anything stat foul play would be at hand? You know what I'm saying? These type of relationships happen all the time. And as you get older, they may shift. They probably would have shifted. But how do you choose who your kids are around? Is that now something that we have to consider? Do people consider that? Let me know in the comment section. As a parent, do you consider the demographic of the school and the neighborhood in which you're going to live in when you're deciding to move? Do you want to be in an all-black neighborhood? I don't. Y'all already know me. I don't. Do I want to be in an all-white neighborhood? No. The neighborhood that I used to live in, I loved it because it was diverse. It's pretty diverse. There was still some weirdness that was going on, but it was diverse. But again, I think a lot of it also depends on the economic class. Bringing this all back in, I think what's important here is that there's no real way of knowing who's who and who's what, aside from the diligence of the individual. As a parent, you can only do so much. And when you're in college, you don't know what your kid is doing unless they tell you absolutely everything that's going on. So at that point, you just kind of have faith. Now, some people are going to say faith brought about these parents losing their kid. Well, Well, that's the many crazy things about death, huh? I think ultimately at the end of the day, we do what we can the best that we can. And if we have options to learn and to grow, then we don't turn it away. Because life is life at the end of the day. And everything is meaningless, as it says in Ecclesiastes. So we live under the guidance of the Lord. We live in obedience of the Lord, and we live to procreate and to give more glory to the Lord. And we just do what we can at the end of the day. Y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.